council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 4, 24PD017. Item 6, 24UR014. Rapid City Planning Commission's action on these items are final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 6 that staff would like removed for separate consideration?
No, thank you.
Any items 1 through 6 that any planning commissioner would like removed? Okay. Haven asked for item 6. I'm going to ask for item 5. Just have one question on that. Any items 1 through 4 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration? All right, the chair would then entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 4 in accordance with staff's recommendation.
Motion to approve items 1 through 4 in accordance with the staff's recommendation stipulations.
All right. Vince made the motion to approve those items and Mike Kwasny seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is the ordinance amendment. I pulled this item just, I believe wholeheartedly in the open space idea as part of multifamily. The number there, 400 square feet per dwelling unit. I just did some quick math and Copper Ridge, I think, is 400 units. That would be close to 4 acres of open space. Does that sound correct, or did I miss a top end to the open space?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
that, without checking the actual size of Copper Ridge, they could have just used the usable area of the property, but regardless, if they had X number of units times 400 square foot of open space, that is what's currently required in medium density residential and high density residential. It's not a difficult number for the developers to hit, but it does preserve an area for the occupants of the apartments to be able to get outside and enjoy that open space.
I guess I didn't put my question clearly, and I think you still answered it. Does that number 400 match up with our current developments, or is this a new level?
Good point. It matches up exactly with it. We revised the office commercial district a couple of years ago, you may recall, that eliminated single-family homes from that district. We had developers that were coming in and rezoning along arterials to office commercial. And because that allowed single family, we now had single family homes on arterial streets. And from a land use perspective, that's not the best quality of life for those residents. So in eliminating that, we retained the multifamily development and did not notice at that time that in office commercial, it did not have the open space requirement. Now, I must say, any apartment that has been developed in office commercial has provided it. We are now just rectifying the ordinance so that we can require it if they're not bringing it forward on their own.
Fair enough. Thank you, Vicki. I don't usually make motions, but I'll do that on this one. Okay, Vince said he will.
Make a motion to approve item 5 in accordance with the staff's stipulations. Second.
All right, Vince made that motion, thankfully for me, and Eric Heikus seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6. Haven? Can you put your light up?
Thank you.
Sorry, I gotta get you on the mic. Got it.
Thank you. I thought this was worthy of discussion for a couple of reasons. That Moon Meadows Road, I think, is a pretty significant development. And also, there was a comment that was attached to the agenda that I think is worthy of discussion and some input on this item.
I do have a speaker request form from Matt Nas, if that helps. Cassie?
Do you want me to go through a full presentation, Haven?
No, I don't know that that's necessary.
Okay. What questions do you have?
Well, for one thing, I noticed there was a write-in and write-out, and I'm assuming that comes off Moon Meadows. So basically, if you're going east, you can go in, and when you go out, you have to go east.
So the write-in, write-out is tied to, from my understanding, the exception that Public Works gave them to waive the requirement to submit a traffic impact study. And that was stipulated with the east approach on Moon Meadows has to be write-in, write-out only. So this, where'd my fancy little, so this approach right here is the one that has to be write-in, write-out only.
And then I assume if you're going, if you turn off 16 and go west, it's not possible to access this property?
If I might, Haven, there are two approaches. The one to the west is full movement. You can enter and or exit from that approach going east or west. And then the one closest to the intersection, that is the right-in, right-out only, so that it doesn't interfere with stacking or other movements at the intersection of Moon Meadows and Mount Rushmore Road.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That does explain that. And obviously then there's a light that's been established this summer at Moon Meadows in 16. And not that it may be entirely relevant with this property, but I believe we did approve a similar gas station C-store on the south, on the east side of 16, south of Moon Meadows.
That is correct. It seems like where one goes, another one will be constructed in close proximity. We see that with many uses throughout the city. This is an area that has a significant amount of traveling public. It's the gateway to the hills. And so in reviewing this convenience store, noting that there would be an amount of traffic that would frequent it, I think that the compromises that have been made working with Public Works on the design of the approaches were done so to ensure the safety of those, not only coming to this site, but also traveling along Moon Meadows and Mount Rushmore.
And then there was some issues raised in the letter, and maybe Matt's going to speak to that, and maybe that might be the best way to have him talk about that, and then if we have any questions, we can respond at that time.
Mr. Nas, if you'd like, once you're up, if you could identify yourself for our records.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Matt Niles from Gunderson Palmer Law Firm on behalf of Tom St. Hill and Black Hills RV Park. First and foremost, Mr. St. Hill received notice of this CUP on the 17th. It was mailed on the 14th. He's since reached out to both city staff and the developer, the applicant for the conditional use permit, and has not yet had an opportunity to discuss his concerns with them. And at this point, we feel it is a bit premature to approve the conditional use permit, at least without the conditions that we're going to talk about momentarily, prior to the opportunity to discuss that with both staff and the developer. The first issue that was raised by Mr. St. Hill in his email to the city is that of drainage. And if we take a look at the property on Rapid Maps, can I get this guy?
Yeah, I think so. Vicki, do you
See
know?
if this works. Yeah,
Here comes Kip, he's the IT guy. Oh, there it is.
Oh.
There it is.
Very good, thank you. Appreciate the technical assistance. The RV park you can see on the south, the area of the CUP is on the northeast, and Foxton Storage is to the west on the north side. Right now, it's currently all owned, the property to the north, both the storage and the area of the CUP is currently owned by Fox LLC. The issue with drainage occurs from the storage units as the snow is pushed south out of the storage units onto the RV park. Then as it melts, the snow floods the RV park. The concern with the CUP is obviously adding additional impervious surface in that area is only going to exacerbate the drainage issues. I'd like to show a couple pictures here of the snow, and you can see here that the snow is pushed through gates in this storage fence onto the adjacent RV park lot, which effectively causes it to flood in the spring when it melts. Now again, while this current drainage issue, it relates to the storage units, not the area of the conditional use permit, both lots, the storage unit lot and the conditional use permit lot, are currently owned by the same entity, and it's our position that in dealing with the drainage issue and in dealing with the CUP, the drainage issue should be addressed and a condition should be attached to the CUP to require drainage to be adequately addressed in the entire area. I think if you go back to Rapid Maps, you can see that there is an area coming out toward Mount Rushmore Road there that is not included in the lot of the proposed Circle K. That is where drainage is intended to flow, and the applicant, pardon me, Mr. St. Hill and Black Hills RV Park would request a condition requiring that drainage be addressed by the future Circle K, and including in the Foxton storage. There are a couple other issues that were addressed in Mr. St. Hill's email. I think you've seen a similar map to this in your packet. Again, an RV park, you saw the proximity of the actual RVs to the proposed Circle K. There are certainly concerns as it relates to lighting of the gas station itself, the gas pumps, etc. We've got RVers trying to sleep at night in this RV park. We would request that the light pollution, for lack of a better word, be considered by this commission and a condition regarding such light be considered and approved. For example, a lights off period between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. or something to that effect. Similarly, you can see with the vacuum area, the vacuum area is located here and is relatively close to the RV park. Obviously, we've all been to these gas station vacuums and they're not quiet. That is a concern for Mr. St. Hill and Black Hills RV Park, and frankly, I believe a reasonable concern, a concern that could be addressed. Lastly, you see the trash just south of the vacuum location. Again, directly adjacent to the RV park. Obviously, where you store trash, you're going to have concerns with odor, with vermin, etc. Again, this appears to be a reasonable request to consider a condition on the CUP that the trash storage area, the trash collection area, isn't adjacent to the RV park where RVers are trying to sleep and enjoy the Black Hills. Again, I'll be available for any questions, but these are our major concerns. And again, we haven't yet had an opportunity to discuss them either with city staff or with the applicant themselves. I think that hopefully conversations could lead to answers and solutions, but at this time we just haven't had the opportunity to do that. I would like to, these are two other pictures of the snow, and I would like to leave these with the commission and make them a part of the record in this matter moving forward. And with that, I'd try to answer any questions. Mr. St. Hill is here also to help with any questions.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Vicky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great comments, and we always appreciate it when neighbors show up and engage in conversation. We find that that makes for the best laid plan. I would like to start with the first one being lighting. Attached to the project report is standard advisories that apply to every application, and advisory number 8 speaks specific to lighting. So they will have to ensure that all of their outdoor lighting is designed so that it continually reflects within the property boundaries so as not to shine onto adjoining properties and rights of way and not to be a hazard to the passing motorist or constitute a nuisance of any kind. If any of that lighting should create issues beyond that, we will then contact the property owner and have them correct it. Code enforcement is the avenue to pursue. The first advisory also identifies the need to secure a building permit. As a part of a building permit, they'll have to bring in a grading permit, erosion and sediment control permit, and a full drainage permit so that they are ensuring that any impervious area that they are creating, that additional runoff is held on site and that it is maintained and released into the historic flows that is coming off the property today. And I'll defer to Roger here in just a moment on speaking more in detail of what the engineers will review as a part of it. When it comes to the dumpster location and the vacuums, I would like to note that we have convenience stores throughout our community nestled right up against single-family residential development. And over the course of time, the vacuums have gotten quieter. They are used at typically only during the day and not in the evenings. And so we've not had complaints from the residential developments as to that creating an issue. The location of the trash container isn't regulated by ordinance. I do think, though, that if the applicant is in the audience and there's things that he's heard today that they would like to offer up as solutions, that would be a great opportunity. Concerning the snow removal on the property to the west, pushing snow off onto someone else's property isn't allowed. And so please, there's avenues that we can pursue if that should happen again in the future. Luckily, this property owner that we're discussing today, as was just pointed out, there's a flagpole that doesn't allow them to push onto that adjacent property for their snow removal. There's no requirement in the ordinance that a property owner for commercial or industrial or multifamily development reserve an area for snow removal. Some winters we barely need it. Some other winters there's nowhere where we can prepare for it. It's the element of where we live and the uncertainty of how much snowfall we're going to receive. So code enforcement is the avenue, though, if we should have a property owner that is trespassing onto an adjacent property. Some of this does become civil issues between property owners when the ordinance doesn't give us the ability to enforce. But with that, Mr. Chair, if we could just defer to Public Works, Roger Hall, the city attorney, a little more description on what we'll be looking at from drainage when that building permit comes in.
Thanks, Vicky. Roger?
All right, thank you, Chairman. And she said I'm the city attorney. I'm not. I got Kinsley here for that. I'm the city engineer. Thank you. Yeah, can we put that site plan back up? One of you, I think, have that on there. Yeah.
Upside down.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. If you notice out in the front there that what I call the front towards Highway 16, there is a area that'll be a detention facility for the runoff from the actual site. So my understanding is the way this is designed right now, and I'd have to ask the engineer some more specifics. Do you have a better one, Cassie? Yeah, right there. That'll be the detention pond for the runoff from the site. The water will be diverted to that site. And just as a reminder, we require that the post-development runoff not exceed the pre-development runoff. That's in not volume, but, you know, if there's 1 CFS coming off the site prior, it can only be 1 CFS, so we have to attenuate that down, okay? The volume's obviously gonna increase, he addressed it, the impervious area, but they have to retain that volume and attenuate it back to pre-existing flows, so. And that's, my understanding, just looking at the site plan, is that's what they intend on doing. I was unaware that the intention was to put water to the back of the site there, but, right now. And then still put it out into the DOT right away from there. It'll flow naturally to, I assume that goes to the south, maybe? It's hard to tell. I've been out there many times. So anyway, any questions on the runoff? And if I could jump back real quick on something Vicki said, she's absolutely correct on that right in, right out Haven about the traffic and the stacking and everything else. And we have a similar setup on the east side of the road for the other convenience store. So.
Roger, I'll jump in here. The future stormwater control of that site might be less important than the storage one, and sticking a bunch of concrete right in the sort of the general direction that the water from the storage site is going is kind of concerning if there's already an issue.
Yeah.
Where is the stormwater control for that storage facility?
I'll admit I'm unfamiliar with that site.
Okay.
I remember when they were constructing it, and that was before I was at the city, so I'm not sure what the plan was for attenuating their water, whether it was coming to the front or the back, but Vicki's exactly right. The disposal of snow onto that site is a code enforcement issue, and so, but as far as the runoff, I can't address that. I don't know,
Okay.
so.
I guess my concern would be that if there's a further development that impedes the existing removal of stormwater from that storage site, that would be something we'd need to know currently versus just focusing on the development of the property that's applied for. We've got, Vicki, do you want to chime in?
Well, and certainly when that building permit comes in and that set of plans is huge, it does look at the drainage coming onto this property as well as the additional drainage that this project will be creating. They're only responsible to mitigate that they are creating. So there might be a regional issue that we need to look at at the city independent of this application.
All right, got a few other commissioners now. Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Roger answered my first question, and that's our understanding in this community is that there's a no net gain policy, correct, Roger? Yeah, that meaning the amount you had before, the amount you have after can't exceed what the amount you had before for stormwater. So the terminology I think you're looking for lighting is what's called light trespass, and that is a lead prerequisite for most site planning. You can't have, more than a quarter-foot candle of light trespassing onto the neighbor's property. That's a good standard. My question is, the two types of zonings on these two lots. They are. Do we have a map showing the? Are we single family and commercial, or are we commercial and commercial?
This property is just commercial.
Okay. And the adjacent lot to the south is also commercial, is that correct?
It's highway service within the county.
Okay. Is there a buffering requirement between those two lots in terms of, okay, there is not.
No.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicki.
So highway service, general commercial, they do go hand in hand. While the city does not have a highway service zoning district, it's that way in the county. It really lends itself to tourist type activity, which the adjacent property owner has had a very successful tourist activity just outside the city limits for many, many years. And we want to ensure that as the properties in the city limits develop, that it enhances his business, not take away from it. So again, we really appreciate that they took the time to come this morning and to share these comments. I believe that we have a representative from the applicant
Yes.
that might be able to help us with some drainage comments, and then maybe they can speak to if they're open and willing to maybe look at where those dumpsters are and the vacuum location.
I've got a couple other commissioners that wanted to chime in. I might go to those just so we can have a more all-encompassing comment. Mike Quasney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, the drainage, even if they do not push the snow off the edge of their lot and they put it on the back edge of theirs, I don't think we fixed the drainage problem. I'm curious, is there some way to go back and do that? Because we kind of ensure that drainage is not a problem when they do their initial plan. So is there a way to fix that going forward so that they don't have to contend with that? Even if they put just snow against the fence, it's still going to drain, I think, onto their... How do we fix that problem? Before we even get into this new, it was kind of created, and it's going to enhance if we don't take care of it in accommodation. And if I understand it right, this is the same property owners, both the Fox Run and this new? Are they the same property owners? So it'd be easy fix?
It won't be. So this will be owned separately from the storage unit property. I do think that while we need to ensure that if the property owner of the storage lockers, if they should push snow where it's negatively impacting the property to the south, that needs to get addressed. But that should get addressed separate from the development of the convenience store. I would assume that looking at, if you can go back to the site plan for the convenience store, the one that's closer up.
Oh, I think that's the one that he had.
Okay, that's okay. You could put, I think having
There it
the
is.
gentleman here that will speak to the drainage issue, maybe looking at the graphic that he had up, it might help us understand how they're going to try to capture that drainage, which would then also address where they're going to push their snow so that it too goes into that detention area. Mr. Chair?
The other question I had, I guess, if they are wanting to meet with the developer, I guess, does it behoove us to move this back and allow that to happen so that we don't have to have the government per se involved? And I think the entities can get together and come with a solution, because they're, you get developers, they're good people, and the people that own the land, the RV park, they want to work with them. It just seems proper that maybe pushing it back and allowing that to happen could solve a lot of problems here.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually like to defer to the applicant right now, because I think some of the questions have already been answered by Vicky, and he may have some of my other questions answered, if I may.
All right. Does that work for you, Eric?
I'm deferring to the applicant because he has some information that I'd like to hear.
Okay. If you could identify yourself.
Yeah, my name's Richard Blassie. I work for Colliers Engineering Design. I'm the client manager for Circle K on this project. To the points of the stormwater management, as Roger said, we will be installing a major stormwater pond in the north east corner of the site that will detain the stormwater to pre versus post rates. Also in the state code, if stormwater is coming across our property, we have to take that and either bypass it or take it through our system, and we also cannot drain onto any other properties. So our entire lot will be all encompassed within our lot and go through our pond as part of the state code. So that will get addressed with Roger through his review in the building permit and with the state stormwater permit. The other The other thing that I'd like to address outside of the stormwater was the graphic that the gentleman had put up had made it seem like the RV lot was much closer to the site than it was. So I have our actual landscaping plan up. And it's about 200 to 250 feet. So as Vicky said, there is no specific buffering required, but we are providing almost 200 feet and putting pretty extensive landscaping on that south side of the parking and the dumpsters. So you won't, there'll be a natural buffer from us to the RV for both noise, light pollution, and everything. So we won't have any lights that are outside of the parking area down there or anything like that. And as Vicky said, yes, right now it is one property, but Circle K is purchasing this property from the owner, and we can't really do anything with what they're doing right now with their snow storage. I think it's a code enforcement thing that maybe they just have to haul it off or do something different. But their point of contact with the property owner is much further south than ours. And then I can answer any other questions you guys might have with regards to the site plan or what we discussed so far.
Okay, thank you. Vince?
Thank you, Chair. So what are the hours of operation again?
Sorry, I don't know that. Jim
Well,
Gepner
Okay,
is.
that's fine. If you could identify yourself too, sir.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Jim Gepner. I'm the Real Estate Development Manager for Circle K. And as far as our hours of operations, typically we're going to be 24 hours of operations at, our locations, and that's what we've done here in Rapid City and seems to appeal to our customers as well. So
Okay.
that's our plans.
Thank you, sir. And
You're welcome.
thanks, Chair.
Eric Heikus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it Mr. Salinas? Sorry.
Or me.
You.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, sorry.
Blassie, Richard Blassie.
Richard Blassie,
Yeah.
that, your comment about the adjacencies
Yeah.
and the exhibit that was previously put up by the counselor, I think that's where a lot of us got confused. That adjacency is not right there. We have quite a big buffer between those two spaces, so that settles that issue for me. A lot of municipalities actually, and that I've worked in, have an area required that shows snow storage. And I don't know if that's something that in our long-term planning we may want to consider having those places shown on our site plans. But the last comment I have is just a practical, logical comment, and that is you've got all those RV units there, and I think a lot of them are going to go to the C-store and try to get snacks and things like that. So I'm wondering if some kind of connection between the two might be a relevant long-term plan there, a walkway or something, because you're going to see a lot of foot traffic between those two facilities. So that's all I have. I really appreciate the clarification on the site, that buffer between the two. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicky?
So Eric does make a good comment on connectivity to truly show a benefit to the adjacent developer too, that someone that pulls into the convenience store might say, oh, look, we can drive right here and pull in and park the RV for the night. There was an alternate site plan that was originally submitted that did show an access point that aligned with the approach off of Mount Rushmore Road to the RV project. However, that is going to take collaboration with the adjacent property owner as well as the state in order to have a shared approach. And until that is addressed, that access cannot be shown on this site plan. So if in the future, the adjacent property owner, this developer, and the state come to terms, then they would need to get the necessary permits for the construction and, of course, the approach permit from the state.
Thank you. Eric, I have you up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Point of clarification for me, maybe not necessarily a vehicular access between the two sites, but a pedestrian access between the two might be relevant, as 15-year-olds and 12-year-olds are going to go over and get something to eat. So just throwing that out. Sorry for the fuss.
No worries.
Okay.
Haven?
Thank you. I noticed that, and it was pointed out, there is quite a buffer between the proposed development and the RV park to the south. And the diagram that's up here right now shows that with some landscaping on the south. I guess my question would be, however, if they wanted to develop in another fashion the south end of the current lot, is that going to require further approval by the city? Or can they do that without any further approval?
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
So if they were to come forward with, let's say, there's not a lot of real estate there, but let's say they were going to put in a coffee kiosk where someone could drive through and get a cup of coffee. That would be permitted. It would require a building permit, and then again, we'd get the grading permit, erosion and sediment permit, drainage permit. It would trigger a traffic impact study at that point. And, but it would, while requiring permits, would not require a public hearing. And just as a reminder, if they were just coming in doing the convenience store, this would just be a building permit. This is because it's with, there's a car wash that you're seeing it.
Thank you. And I think this diagram does show the landscaping on the south side of their proposed development, which I think is good. I mean, it seems like that does provide a very good buffer.
Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a lot of the concerns that I had on this one were answered already. The proximity, the drainage. I would assume that a corporation like Circle K would be a good steward, good neighbor, do the right things. Is there a physical barrier? I can't really tell from this site plan. Is there a physical barrier between the properties or the convenience store parking lot between RV park versus the convenience store? In other words, could pedestrians walk over access freely if there was no fence on the RV side?
If we could get Cassie to put up the aerial, there are no physical barriers, and I think that's why long-term, Circle K would like to work with the adjacent property owner and the state to actually have an access point shared. But one could walk right now from the RV property onto this property.
Gotcha. Because I remember we did, there was a similar car wash residential south side, and people were concerned about noise, lighting, all that, and they did have, physical barriers, fences. But I mean, with the 200-foot-ish land barrier, that's a big plus. So that was good clarification on that. So thank you.
Mr. Nas, looked like you wanted to address this again.
I did, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to address the physical barrier issue. I think that the RV park would appreciate a condition in the CUP requiring for example, a privacy fence initially to help with the light, to help with the trash, to help with the noise, but also to help with that proximity. And frankly, the RV park doesn't want to have people walking over from the Circle K and their charcoal barbecues walking off. And a physical barrier between the two properties would certainly help that, and we would ask that that condition be placed upon the CUP. Additionally, I forgot to mention when I previously spoke that Mr. St. Hill's family does live permanently at the RV park, and so it isn't just a commercial property, it's also utilized as a residential property as well. But I did want to mention that the idea of a privacy fence. And I think as we discussed this morning, I go back to my original thought that there are a lot of questions here left unanswered. And so while the RV park isn't necessarily opposed to the project as a whole, they have questions they would like to have answered so that they can be satisfied that whatever the conditions are that are placed upon the CUP satisfy their concerns. And that's why they would like the opportunity to address those concerns with both the applicant and with the city.
All right, thank you. Eric Heikus?
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit with the staff stipulations considered.
Okay, is there a second to Eric's motion?
Second.
All right, Vince seconded that. Comments on the motion or otherwise? Mike Quasney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment on the last statement there, that privacy fence. I think that the people that are in the RV park, and I think you might want to consider this, I think they're going to figure out a way to get over to the convenience store to get their stuff. So I almost would think you would want that to where they could have access. But you have, that's up to you as individuals. It's just, I would, they're going to get around and they're going to figure out, and we don't want to push them over towards the highway, I guess, if they're 15-year-olds. So.
All right, Vicky?
So, speaking on the motion that's on the floor right now, the motion to approve with the stipulations as noted, and with the advisories that do address those things such as lighting. We do have noise regulations, so that would be in place for some of the comments that were shared today. The representative from the adjacent property owner has asked for a privacy fence. There's nothing in the zoning ordinance that would allow us to require it, but may I encourage the current applicant, after this meeting, to work with that adjacent property owner and try to find solution that if it's not a privacy fence, potentially there's additional trees or other landscaping that truly appeases that. Otherwise, the adjacent property owner does have the ability to appeal this to City Council, and that will delay this for a full month versus just 2 weeks to your next Planning Commission meeting. So again, we always appreciate that we're here to facilitate and ensure that while we're bringing projects forward, we're being good neighbors with those that we currently value and that are existing in our community. We can't require the privacy fence based on regulations, but I am strongly encouraging them to work with the adjacent property owner.
Thanks, Vicky. Haven?
Thank you. This has been a very good discussion, and there's been some good comments from the commissioners, and I appreciate the input from the staff to kind of clarify a lot of the issues that have been raised. Thank you.
Vince?
Thank you, Chair. No, I agree. It's not easy, and we don't want to redesign it, the project here. And if we thought that it can get resolved or within 2 weeks, and we can revisit this again, that's one thing. But as far as the privacy fence and as far as access to shopping, which would benefit the patrons of the RV park, it seems reasonable to address for both of those parties to address it with each other. Because again, as Vicky pointed out, there's still an option in case you can't agree today.
Mr. Chair.
Vicky?
So representatives of the Circle K have volunteered to add a stipulation that would require a privacy fence along the south lot line, designed so that there would be an access point. I do think they are going to try to work with that adjacent property owner for vehicular access and or pedestrian access. But outside of that small opening towards the very southeast corner, they would be in a line with putting up a 6-foot-high privacy fence.
Is that something the motion maker and second would like to? Eric? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would amend my motion for that addition of that stipulation. Thank you.
Okay. Vince?
I will concur and second that.
Anything else? All right. Can you, I don't mean to belabor this more, but one comment from me on the motion. The overhead from the project report, if you could put that up. Like the satellite photo.
Oh, the aerial?
Yeah, sorry.
You're getting technical on us.
No, not me.
Back and forth. I have it up on the computer. It's
Okay.
just not up on this.
Well, I'll
He said,
just
"Stand by."
I'll just make my comment without it. when I see that picture, and I know that we are supposed to comment and deal with the property highlighted in yellow. I've done it long enough. These two properties, though, the storage units and that other one, were developed by the same owner. And without knowing where the drainage is going from the storage units, it's hard for me to say that developing the property in yellow will not affect that, because that's a lot of pavement, and I'm not seeing a retention pond, so to speak. So that'll be the reason why I'm voting against this at this point. But the motion on the floor is to approve with the stipulation added for the privacy fence. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. So it's Mike Klosny and I were opposed. But the motion passed.
Thank you.
Item number 7.
Good morning, Chair and Commission. Item number 7 is a major amendment to a planned development overlay to allow an adult daycare center at 1339 East North Street. So this property previously was used as a childcare center with a outdoor play area. So this property is zoned general commercial. Both childcare centers and adult daycare centers are separate conditional uses under that zoning district. In the original plan development overlay, there's a stipulation that requires a major amendment to the plan development overlay if a different conditional use is brought forward on the property. So that's why we are here today talking about it. The property also has a future land use category of mixed use commercial, which is aligned with the proposed use. There is access to both East North Street and North Creek Drive, which are principal and minor arterials through that connector of Century Road, just through this here, and that's where the access point for the development feeds out to. And then North Creek Drive does lead to East Anamosa. So this is the original site plan from the plan development. Since it is just a change of use, there's no other proposed changes to the property. I will note that this is an old landscape plan, so we've asked in the stipulations to have an updated one. I did visit on site. They have adequate landscaping. They have quite a bit of landscaping. It's just not in the location that is shown on this particular site plan. So we just stipulated that to be a part of the building permit so that we have that on file. And previous building permits did note also adequate landscaping in that regard. So their operations plan is actually pretty similar to the child care center that was there previously. So we don't see a real increase in use. It's just a different clientele. So approximately 60 to 65 adults per day at most with caregiving needs. These are people that have Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, stroke recovery, paralysis, other disabilities of the sort. Their operating hours Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And their care will include socialization, community outings, exercise, personal hygiene assistance, scheduled activities, and transportation services if they have appointments and the sort. So with that, the employees would include about 10 floor aides, 2 activity staff, and a part-time licensed practitioner nurse and a site director. So they try to maintain a 1-to-6 person to client ratio, essentially. The existing facilities, they'll do some updates to meet their needs internally as well. For the adult daycare centers, it doesn't have the same requirement of the outdoor play areas as the child care center does, but they do plan to update that outdoor area to meet their needs as well. So there will be an outdoor future improvements that will be accessible to those that are going to be there. Let me see here. So they actually exceed their parking requirements. They meet all the loading and unloading. Everything is very, very similar to that previous use. And staff recommends approval with stipulations noted in the report. We'll stand for questions. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Let me actually show you the site. I forgot the pictures. So this is looking directly at the child care center. And you can notice they have a couple landscape islands. They actually have more than they're required. And there's quite a bit of grass and bushes around the site. So this is looking straight. I believe this would be west. And this is the kind of outdoor fenced area. The other side of the building, again, looking west. This is looking south. It does drop off, and there's quite a bit of landscaping along that ridge as well. Looking north, there is a kind of joint parking lot. There's the two restaurants to the north of here, and then the Midco building on the other side of the parking lot. So quite a bit of parking, internal circulation, and this is looking to the east there. So, sorry, I'll stand for questions now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on this proposal?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Vicky.
I think that the pictures that Jessica showed identifies a little bit what happens when a property sits vacant. While that landscaping is there, it's distressed. So it'll be great to get an occupant inside this structure that can tend to the daily care of the landscaping, especially during our hot summer months. And may I take liberty to just share that they have an existing facility on East Minnesota Street. They were essential to my being able to have my mother in my home her last days by providing adult daycare during the day. And I just cannot say enough about the importance of these services in our community so that our parents can age beside us and not have to live in an institutional type setting. So we're hopeful that you do support the proposal.
All right. I know it doesn't count for landscaping points, but with a view like this, what do we need? Mike Kwasny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Vicki, you said that very well. I think the point, there is a need in our community, and we're thankful that people come forward and bring these forward. And I'm assuming since they do have, and that was a question I did have they got sites that they already are running? I'm assuming all the necessary safety features will be in place with people that are like to wander. So I think it's great that we have this opportunity to take this building and make it something like that. So I would make a motion to go ahead with this with all the stipulations.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Is there a second to Mike's motion to approve with stipulations? Vince seconded. Haven?
I would echo those comments about the need for this sort of a facility, and hopefully it will be successful. I did have a question that's maybe not quite on point, but this property does not front on East North, but yet has an address of East North. Could you clarify how that happens?
So I will say in the project notes from the original plan development, they did coordinate with the property owners to see if they wanted to address off of Century. I don't have an answer of why they decided not to, but there was an option to do so. I think it's because I think they're taking it off of essentially this way. Because they share that parking lot, so I think they were assuming it's everything within that development that touches north. That would be my assumption, but I don't have a clear answer. I do know that they were offered to be able to address off of Century because it seemed to make more sense.
Oh, thank you. It really doesn't have any application to this, what's before us, though, but thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the motion to approve with stipulations? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8.
Good morning. I am Mike Dugan with the Finance Department. This morning, I'm going to talk to you briefly about a proposed new tax increment district that was moved forward from the Tax Increment Finance Committee on July 17th. The proposed is called Inland Housing Development, and moving forward, this will be number 92. This slide shows the yellow is Rapid City city limits. And then this particular development, these are the TID boundaries over here off Homestead, just north of that. This is an aerial of the development. What this tax increment will include as far as public improvements is it will complete Reservoir Road up to the future proposed east intersection of East Anamosa. So it'll complete that. And then also grading this portion within the boundary lines, this section of East Anamosa. Putting those improvements in will open up this area right here for 156 single-family homes, 84 of which will be scaled down or smaller homes, priced under $190,000, and the remaining 72 single-family homes will be priced at or below the South Dakota Housing Authority max selling price of $385,000. So that stipulation, or that covenant, will move forward in the developer's agreement that each year that whatever that South Dakota first-time home buyer max selling price or max purchase price limit is at, this will follow. This is the zoning. The current zoning of this is low density residential. This shows the major street plan, and here within the development, Reservoir Road is classified as a principal arterial. And then coming through on this, the dashed blue lines is a proposed East Anamosa, which previously described, a section of that will be graded within the TID boundary, and that one, East Anamosa, is also a principal arterial. This is the public improvements maps of the development. Once again, the public improvements in the road coming up, completing Reservoir Road to East Anamosa, future intersection, the grading of the future proposed East Anamosa, and this is where the subdivision will go in with the 156 single-family units. The proposed TID-funded costs. The total cost of capital costs, professional fees, and contingency is approximately $3.6 million. Proposed financing interest costs for this is approximately $4.4 million to come to a total project cost of $7,817,989. This is the total project cost of the development, coming in at just over $11 million. With the phasing of this that I'll show kind of how that works in a future slide. But here it breaks down Reservoir Road and the grading of East Anamosa from this slide. Projections, the anticipated base valuation, and the applicant estimates the projected payoff period of this district would be 15 years. The schedule improvements for the projected increment, this shows the breakdown of the homes, construction of each year. So projecting in 2028 having the first 49 homes done, and then the final homes completed in 2030 forward to get to that 156 single-family homes number. This is the estimated increase in valuation of when the homes, so when those homes are completed in 2030, they're projecting an increase in valuation of $63,800,000 for this development. Projected tax revenue from this development, they're estimating at just over $12.8 million. Now, as a previous slide, the total project cost with finance, the interest costs included, was approximately $7.8 million. So this does show more than adequate enough increment to repay the district. The note amortization, so this does show it's starting and capitalizing the first couple of years in 2024, and then payment in full by June of 2039, so approximately 15 years. The project sources and uses. So the uses up here shows the revenue from the lot sales. So this box right here shows the sources and uses without Reservoir Road TIF. That puts a conventional bank loan at just over $7.5 million to complete this project, which does not work with the revenue from the lot, so it would be a shortfall to complete this project without the TIF. The bottom slide here does show when you add in the Reservoir Road TIF in that number there, that it does show that this could move forward with these TIF funds. The next slide here shows the rate of return for this project to the applicant. So the top, the uses slide shows the construction cost, the carrying cost, and the bank interest. And the sources, the TIF, the grant that they are receiving, and the lot sales. So with the taxes coming out, and so it's coming out to a little under 10% of their rate of return, which is approximately $7,400 per lot sale. And just finishing up here, there will be, like I said previously, a stipulation developers agreement to keep the 72 single-family homes at the first-time home buyers limit. And currently, for the state of South Dakota, it's $385,000 will be the max selling price, and that will follow in every year what that is dictated by the state. And then it was discussed, the last slide here, it was discussed in the TIF committee on July 17th of adding a county fee going forward as a new application fee for these projects. So speaking with the county, they recommended $15,000 as their administration fee for these projects going forward. Recommendation, if this is moved to be approved to move forward, just moving to City Council, the resolution to create a tax increment district and the resolution to adopt a project plan. And with that, I will stand for any questions, and the applicant and representatives are in attendance. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Mr.
Kelly?
Chair.
Oh, sorry, Vicky.
Mike, could I have you go back to the aerial or a graphic that shows Reservoir Road extending north of Homestead Street?
Yep.
A little history. There, that's a good one. So you'll see that the district boundary extends significantly further south than the residential development that they are proposing east and west of the north end of Reservoir. In part, that is because as previous projects have been approved by the city on the west side of Reservoir Road, exceptions were granted by City Council that deferred improvements of Reservoir Road adjacent to those projects since access was being provided from alternate sources. As such, that really puts the onus back on the city to make that improvement at this time. In working with the developer, as they discussed with us, the creation of an affordable housing project and securing a TIF, we partnered on the project to the extent that if that boundary extended down to Homestead Street along Reservoir Road, we could capture the expense of that street improvement within the TIF, and then it doesn't go back on the city to make that improvement off-site of their project. So this is one of those TIFs that truly does address the needs, not only for this project, but for the other additional neighborhood properties already in place.
Thanks, Vicky. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. this may be a dumb question, but is the state grant already secured, or is that in the works? And if that is not,
I believe that is already secured.
okay,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Eric Heikus? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I see we have a typo in the agenda today, sorry. Mr. Morris is actually named Toby, correct? Yeah, not Tony. So I was wondering who's Tony Morris, but anyway. Toby and I went to Montana State together, so couldn't help that plug there. I'm asking you to speculate, Andy and Toby, but of the scaled down housing, about what square footage is that? Do you have a ballpark or a range you could offer up for those?
And I gotta ask you to come to the microphone and identify yourself.
Good morning. My name's Andrew Skull. I'm a member of, I believe, Enon Development. On the east side of Reservoir Road, there's two different lot sizes. There is, I like the word small home. I think they're on average 4,000 square foot lots, and I think those houses will be somewhere up to 900 square feet, so between 600 and 900 square feet. I would project that the other affordable lots in that area, I would tend to see those in that 12 to 1,400 square foot range. That's typically what we're seeing today in other developments.
Thank you. No more questions from me.
All right, Mike Kwasny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a good move, including Reservoir Road in this. I think that's a great idea. I do have I guess it's probably a side note on Anamosa. At what point is Anamosa developed all the way through there? I mean, we're going to get the road where it's easily, when we get this all flattened out and everything's going on the housing, will the Anamosa be in before this is all done, or where do we see this come? When do we see Anamosa being extended?
Ooh, Roger. Good luck with this.
Yeah, good luck with this, exactly. Well, thank you, Mike, I appreciate the question. I can't predict the future on what's going to develop out there. We're looking big picture. It is part of our major street plan. The other issue we have out there is water pressure, clearly. We're at the top end of our limits along some of those areas in Anamosa. I can't say. I will say we've worked very closely with the developer on this, and we are getting the grading done adjacent to it. And the reason we're doing that is so that in the future, when we do develop Anamosa Street, we don't have to go back in and negotiate with every single one of those homeowners to get onto their property and take out fences and put back fences and things like that. So it's been a really, we've spent a lot of time with their engineer and with their project manager, making sure that what we're doing prepares us for the future. But as far as the development of Anamosa, I can't predict that at all.
Well, I'll just go back to that road that goes along Menards there, and once that finished, that developed, it was just amazing the difference that it made. And I could see this same thing happening with Anamosa on this development, because out in the valley there's a lot of homes already, and just the access points, it would make a huge difference, I think, for all the homes out there. So as the city, I think moving forward, it would be great if there was a way to move it up, but I understand the problems that exist. Thank you.
Haven.
Thank you. I think maybe Andy addressed one of my questions is definition of scaled down homes, which is used in the application, and maybe that's been addressed. Question on Reservoir Road. What is the width of that section that goes south here from the main part? And I assume it only includes the current right-of-way. Would that be right?
Roger, are you jumping on this?
Ask Mike Toohey is the engineer. He's much more familiar with the details than I am. So,
Mike Toohey, Toohey Design Group. The road is a 3-lane, 36-foot wide driving surface. There is a new extension of a 12-inch water main on the west side as part of Rapid Valley Sanitary District already has a main and a new reservoir going in, so we're just extending that along there. There's new storm sewer, and because of the two developments on either side, there's no sanitary sewer required in reservoir.
And I guess addressing the current right-of-way, you addressed the driving surface. Is the TIF intended to just include the current right-of-way on reservoir?
So as the first half of it, you can see the big white circle. That's Rapid Valley's current tank. Up to just up by bridge on the east side of the road, we have 33 foot. On the west side of the road, we have 50 feet, which was because that's supposed to be a full 100-foot criteria. And then anything that we'll be building against will have a 100-foot right away. So we don't have access to the first 17 feet on the lower half of the project.
Thank you.
All right, Kelly?
Thank you. Just a quick question. I saw a line item in there, excuse me, for grading, and you'd mentioned grading, Roger. Is that grading, just prepping for civil underground, or is it actually shaping the lots, getting them ready for, for build condition, like elevations? What kind of grading does that entail?
Mike again?
We have a little bit of both. There is some overlap grading that brings in some of the detention facility and the lot grading. The lot grading for Anamosa is we are responsible to grade to the section line. We're grading to blend in with our lots what the future Anamosa Street will be on our side of the section line. And then within the section line, we'll go back up and tie into the existing grades.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mike, this one's for you. I didn't see it anywhere. I assume that this is a TIF that is developer funded, where the city is not part of it as the banker or anything like that.
No, the city is not,
Okay.
would do this loan, no.
Great. Any other questions or comments on this tax increment application?
I would make a motion.
Okay. All right. Mike Quasney made the motion to approve the resolution to create a tax increment financing district and the resolution to adopt the project plan. And Eric Hikas seconded that motion.
A friendly
Vicky?
amendment to approve with the stipulations that Mike identified, please.
Mike Dugan.
You can say with stips.
All right. Does that work for you, Eric? Okay. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the end of the regular agenda today. Do you have anything to add from Vicki?
We're going through our planning commission roster and looking at your terms as appointed by the council. And so I will be reaching out to some of you as your terms are getting close to expiring to ensure that you want to remain on the planning commission. And then we'll be bringing those forward. Assuming that the answer is yes, we'll be bringing those forward to the mayor and council for confirmation. We appreciate what you do. The effort you put into the items today is a great example of how fortunate we are to have a well-versed planning commission that is not afraid to thoroughly vet an item in a public meeting. And that makes our job have more substance and quality to it. I also think it defers many items from being appealed to council because you do take the time to truly question and try to find solutions. So thank you for what you do.
All right, I had one item I was going to add. and I'm speaking just for myself, but I wanted to ask the commission if they felt the same way. As it relates to tax increment districts and the creation of them, I've hit the point where I've lost track a little bit of, let's say, the current standards that we need to evaluate these by. I've been doing it for a while. There's been changes. We went through a long process that was not passed to redo the TIF guidelines. While that's been going on, there have been changes made at state level. I guess I'm just wondering if the rest of the commission would see a benefit in having an educational session on sort of tax increment 101, or maybe 201.
I mean,
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
I will collaborate with Daniel Ainsley, the finance director. For those of you who haven't realized it, TIFs have been moved to the finance department. I think it would be beneficial if we hosted a training session in this room with both Planning Commission and Council that wanted to attend. We have a lot of new faces on Council. And then we can also record it so that if someone can't attend, they can go out and watch the video.
That would be wonderful.
Absolutely. We'll work on that and try to get something before you within the next 6 to 8 weeks. Bear with us. We're still working through budget items right now.
Thank you. That sounds like a great idea, Vicki. Anybody else have anything to add today? All right. Mike made the motion to adjourn. Vince seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.